Okay, hello my people, this is your boy Yob again. I came with today's video which is about the IST. So far in the last class we have seen the different topics about the basic terminologies of information, communication and technology. So just today we'll see about the IST. So in the last classes so far we have seen the previous basic terminologies like what is data, what information is, the definition of data and information, and we have seen also what technology is. So these are the basic terminologies, but today's class starts from the ICT. So just ICT can be simply defined as the use of electronic device and telecommunication network for different purposes. So these purposes can be creating, storing, processing, sending and receiving the information. So these are the main thing, but it's a quite similar term with the IT, but sometimes the ICT most or like mainly focus on the communication technologies, because we might have different devices like different kinds of information technology device like the computers, printers and different kinds of devices are there, that all of those devices will need different kind of communication medium. So actually communication means just creating some way that those computer based electronic devices or sometimes mobile device, computer device or any other digital device can have some way of communicating with each other, or simply making those devices get to know with each other by some means of communication. So just it can be whether wired communication or maybe wireless communication, but there has to be some way that we can create the communication between the devices. So just ICT mostly focuses on this communication technology. So simply it's the combination of information and technology, or simply technologies that specifically on communication technology. So these are the main terms for the ICT. So just when we continue from this, just we can have the data processing. So in the previous video we have seen about data and we have defined what data is, what information is, just different kinds of terminologies are covered. But today we will see how we can simply change the data into information. So just the only thing we can do here is just to process the data. So processing means just simply converting the raw fact which is not more meaningful, or simply just some kind of thing that we get and use it at a base for discussion or decision making, and just making that meaningless data into something meaningful which is information. So this is what data processing is. So just as you can see from the slide, we have the data which is the input, then the processing, and finally the output which is the final result of our processing, that is information. So just the thing that we can do here is just process, or simply converting the data into information to make it more meaningful. So that's what data processing is. So simply the processing may include calculating, or maybe sorting, or maybe summarizing and also merging of the data. So just according to the type of the data we have, the data can be calculated if the form of the data we're having is just a kind of number based information, or maybe if we have different kinds of textual informations like documents, or maybe some kinds of images and photographs, then we can do the sorting. And we can also summarize an information, which means just trying to reduce the volume of the information. And finally we can merge. Actually these are not the only way that we can process the data, but these are the parts for processing that data, or simply to change or to convert the raw fact which is often meaningless into something meaningful, because data by itself doesn't tell a story, but information is a processed data so that it can tell a story to the person receiving that information. So that's what the difference between the data and the information is, and just the only way that we can simply change our data into information is just by simply converting the data into information by using different processing mechanisms. So these are what data processing is. So just let's see the life cycle for data processing. The life cycles are just, we have 4 different objects here as you can see on the slide. First we have the input, which is the raw material. By the way, the input and outputs are just simply the way that a user can communicate with the computer, or simply there has to be some means of communication between the user and the computer. So just the computer is a device and the user can communicate with the computer by just giving some types of information. For example, there are specifically input devices for just giving a computer with some kinds of information and data. For example, a mouse is an input device, or a keyboard is an input device. So simply just some kind of material or device that you use to give a data from external or from outside world to the computer system. That process is input process, and just after the system will take the information you give and it processes what you give. Then the final result the system will give you, or the system will forward you, is just the output file, or we can simply say the output system. So just that's why in the previous slide the input is just the data which needs to be processed, and after processing what we get is the output, which is the final result and the information. So these are the differences between the input and the output. And when we come to the data processing life cycle, first we have the input, then the processing, then the output. Finally, the output means the processed information will be stored on the memory, like on the secondary storage devices, then so that we can use the information we have processed for the longer use, or for simply for the future use. So this is how a data can be processed. So just as you can see here in the slide, the input is the data given to the system in order to be processed. So the activities can be maybe collecting the data from different sources and also recording the data. That is also another way that we have an input. And the processing activity or operations can be like calculating operation, maybe the arithmetic or the logical operations. So the arithmetic operations are basically used for different types of operations, like the addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. These are the arithmetic operation. And another way to process numbers or data is by comparing one number with another. So just comparing of the number by using less than sign, greater than sign and equals to sign, that is known as a kind of logical operation. So simply these are the mainly used mathematical operations in case of processing the information. Or simply the type of the data you have is a number based data, then you can simply carry out these operations so that you can calculate your information or your data. So just simply calculating for numbers means processing the number based data to get the final result, or just simply to get the final output out of that data. And the operations include, another operation is summarizing, simply reducing the volume of the data. And we can also sort the data, which is meaning putting a definite order, or you might have different kinds of files or documents. So just if you are on the position of sorting those files, the order is just you can simply order the numbers the way you like, maybe ascending order or maybe descending order, but just simply sorting mean putting in a definite order. And finally, the merging is just combining a data. For example, you have 3, 4, 5 and 6 different kinds of documents. So each of the documents needs to be merged into one or combined into one document. Then according to your sorting order, you can simply merge all the other documents to make or to create one single document. So that is known as the merging or combining of the data. Again, merging, sorting, summarizing and calculating are just the way we can process a data to make it more meaningful, or simply to change it from data to information. And the next thing here we can see is storing and retrieving. So simply, storing means just saving the data for the future use, or simply we can work on different kinds of files. So each of the files will need to be stored on our memory, because we need those files for the future use or for the longer use. And another concept here is just retrieving. So simply, the information retrieval means it works with searching for and finding the data which resides in the storage. Actually, retrieval can be in different ways. Maybe we don't have the documents we need or the file we need in our computer stored, so we can simply search for .file over the network, which is by just getting online, we can simply send a request or simply enter a search term to different servers like maybe Google or maybe different kinds of servers. Then whenever if you write some kind of search term, and if the system gives us, or if the server gives us or provides us some kind of information, then we can simply say that is retrieving the information. So retrieval means searching for and finding the data which resides in different area, maybe from your computer storage or maybe from different kinds of servers. So that is what retrieving is. Okay, the output is simply the final result, which is the final option or the final object in the data processing life cycle is output. So it's the final result of the data processing, or just you process the data to make it information. So the final processing, which is the information, is your output. So it can be in different format. Maybe it includes the hard copy or the printed form, which is soft copy, and also the magnetic form, which is the audio format, and the visual formats can be also the way, or they are just the kinds of processed information. So we can simply get this information out of the data which is not processed and have this meaningful information, which is the output. So these are the main life cycle, like the main parts that from we can simply get from the data that we have or we are about to process. So these four are the main life cycle objects. Okay, when we come to the last portion of this topic, then we have two ways that we can use to process information. So simply, information processing can be whether manual or it can be automated type of information processing. So just simply, the difference are this: the manual based information system is a kind of old-fashioned information processing way, because information can be processed right now, like in these days, by using different kinds of computers or digital devices, or simply we need a digital assistance to fastly and flexibly have the information processing activity. So simply, the manual one is just the manual information processing is processing of information by just using pen, paper, and pencil. So these are the three main ways that we can process information by using the manual information processing. It's just a kind of the old-fashioned way of processing the information, and each of the processing activity was the responsibility of the human brain, because there is no assistance like digital assistance or some kind of assistance to process the information. We record the data by using a pen. We write each and every information by using a pen and a paper, and if those data needs to be processed, then the only processing way, or just maybe changing the content, maybe calculating of the numbers, all this will be the responsibility of human brain. And the other one is just the automated information processing. So as its name refers, the automated information processing is just processing of information with the help of computer, or simply here we have a digital assistant, or a computer will be helping us to process the information. So you can have simplest and just a kind of fastest information processing, because we can simply copy and paste the information. We're not supposed to sit around and write everything or record everything. So you can simply copy and paste the files, and after maybe if we are supposed to have large scale calculations, then the computer is responsible, or we have digital calculators to carry out all those processes. So just the automated information processing one is just the fastest way to process information, and it is much more flexible than the manual information processing system. So these are the two main ways of processing information: the manual one, and then the automated information processing. So the automated one is the very coolest and the recently used form of information processing. So just these are today's class. So just in the next class I'll take you to different sections, like different topic, data communication, and we have also just a kind of the after data communication we will see the number system and just the data representation by using different number systems, and we'll continue this video week after week. So just try to be with us, with me, and just see everything. Like you can watch these videos, and if you have any comment and suggestions, just put them down below. And thank you. This week's video was this one. Have a good time.